Am I being arrested?
You are.
Hold on.
Okay. Can I ask? What can I?
We have plenty of time to talk.
Okay.
It's probably one of the most unusual cases that I think we have investigated since I've been sheriff and probably in my career.
A Florida woman is out of a job and facing criminal charges after authorities say she was caught using another woman's identity to work as a nurse at a hospital. Yeah, the sheriff says she had contact with more than 4,000 patients despite failing the national license exam to become a registered nurse. And you are not going to believe what else the sheriff revealed at a news conference. I am going to be sitting down with a Florida attorney to talk about the serious trouble Autumn Bardisa is now in. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. There is a lot of finger pointing going on right now in Florida's Palm Coast area, and this is all thanks to a woman's alleged scheme to fake her nursing license. 29-year-old Autumn Bardisa faces multiple fraud counts for her alleged deception, but many say some blame should also be on the hospital for not catching her in a lie. Bardisa was arrested on Tuesday, August 5th in Palm Coast and seemed shocked and confused that she was being taken into custody. I'll tell you what, we got the body cam. Take a look.
Hey there. Are you Autumn?
Yeah.
Can you step out of the car for me, please?
Sure.
Just turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Oh wait, what's going on?
Put your hands behind your back.
Okay,
We'll
my
tell you
child's across the street.
Okay, all right.
Am I being arrested?
You are.
Yeah. Wait,
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
Can I ask? What can I?
We have plenty of time to talk.
Okay.
Just give us just a minute.
Can I turn my car off?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take care of all that.
Can I tell my boss so I can tell her and keep listening?
Yeah, you have any other weapons? Juliana 34 flag. One female secure. So, let me just tell you, there is a felony warrant for your arrest, okay? There is a bond on it, okay, which is good. It's, I believe, $70,000 is the bond amount, okay? So you can bond out.
What? For what? For what?
You know what all this is about?
Not really. I kind of had something with the Department of Health, but I have my license.
Okay.
And I had thought it was squared away because it's clear and active.
Okay. So that does stem from this. We were contacted, not me directly, but a guy with Health and Human Services reached out to you a couple months ago.
Yeah, and I had an attorney, and I haven't heard anything since.
Okay, so the attorney reached out to him and said that you were currently being represented and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a conversation with you, but if you're represented by an attorney and that's somebody that wants to be here for all that kind of questioning, I obviously am limited on where this conversation can go.
Can I know what is a
It has to do with medical fraud. I can get the exact thing. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it has to do with medical and stuff like that.
Okay.
You have 7 counts of identity theft and 7 counts of practicing without a license. And this does stem from everything with the Department of Health and Admin Health and all of that stuff. I mean, you're already aware of it. You've given statements to them, to other investigators before. This is just your first time meeting me.
Okay, identity.
So no, I've been with the other guys whenever they're doing their investigation, but I was not face to face with you for those.
Okay, I'm saying okay.
So.
Can I just call her on my phone at least?
Yeah. Well, no worries. We'll let you do all that. Now. We can't just take the handcuffs off you because I mean I know you're saying you're not going to fight, but I mean you've seen TV, you watch the movies, like you see.
I've never had an arrest record. I've never done anything.
I'm not saying you have, okay, but we just don't want to. We don't want it to escalate to some place that we put it, because we take the handcuffs off you. But what we can do is get the person who's watching your child, and if you want to tell them what's going on, you certainly can. I mean, or if you want us to tell them.
Can I call them? Can you just take them off so I can call her on the phone at least?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
No. I'm not going to. No,
but I'm going to grab your phone.
We'll grab your phone and put it on speaker for you. Yeah, we'll grab your phone and put it on speaker. No, the point is that I'm not saying you're going to do anything. We take the handcuffs off. That gives you it puts it there. Okay.
Okay. It's not working. It's 0411. And can you go to recent calls? And then yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Turn it up for you. Looks like your front door's open.
Yeah, I was walking. Yeah, please.
Did you want to step inside out of the heat
Yeah,
for a second?
Is that okay? Are you?
Yeah. I mean, anyone else inside the
Let me grab
house?
your keys for you.
Okay, can these... I promise I won't.
Can anyone? Is anyone else inside the house?
Just my dog, but he's... Can these be taken off? I won't do anything.
We can't take them off for right now. Okay.
Come, what, to your house?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, just. Yeah, I'll just move my car in the driveway.
Now, arrest reports and a news conference from Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley provided more information about the exact allegations here.
We believe that there were over 4,400 patients that she was in one manner or another that was involved in care at Advent Health Palm Coast, which is our newest hospital in Flagler County.
So here's now the question. How is this possible? How could a person con themselves into a job where they're going to interact with thousands of people and potentially hold those people's lives in their hands? Well, according to Sheriff Staley, Bardisa graduated from Rasmussen University in March of 2022. Advent Health hired her in July of 2023 as an advanced nurse tech. She had reportedly indicated on her application that she was an education first registered nurse, which means she had the schooling to become an RN, but hadn't been licensed yet. Nurse techs work under the direct supervision of an RN or a licensed practical nurse. Advent Health says she was hired with the expectation that she would take the National Counselor Licensure examination. Sheriff Staley says she did take the exam, but she failed it. So when Advent Health circled back to find out about the testing, Bardisa told them she was scheduled to take it. Then a few months later, apparently told an inquiring HR specialist that she had passed the exam and obtained her license. The license number she provided came back as valid, but the thing about it was, allegedly with a different name. Yeah, Autumn Hood. Bardisa reportedly told the HR person that she'd recently gotten married, so her new last name was Rubba, and the license might not reflect that right away since it had just happened. The HR person told her to upload a copy of her marriage certificate to an Advent Health database, but it turns out that was never done, and then no one seemingly followed up on it. This is from the arrest documentation. Quote, due to Autumn Bardisa's fraudulent use of another person's identification information and Advent Health's oversight on the discrepancies, Autumn was allowed to start the nurse residency program where she graduated on June 20th, 2024 and accepted a position as a registered nurse at Advent Health. So how was her alleged fraud uncovered? Well, she got a promotion. Yeah, early January 2024, Autumn was offered a promotion to charge nurse, which sparked interest by her colleagues. An unidentified nurse checked the status of Autumn's license and discovered that the only license that Autumn Bardisa had was a delinquent certified nursing assistant license. The CNA license had expired on Friday, May 31st, 2024. So this prompted Advent Health to start an inquiry, which led to asking Autumn for her pre-requested marriage license to confirm her licensed identity. And then it says Autumn gave several excuses and ultimately could not provide the documentation and was terminated on Wednesday, January 2nd, 2025. So Bardisa is facing 7 charges of practicing a healthcare profession without a license, 7 counts of fraudulent use of personal identification, and according to arrest documentation that was filed with the court, from June 2024 through December 2024, Autumn Bardisa had acted as a registered nurse for approximately 4,486 documented patients of Advent Health. So we wanted to do a check on Bardisa's criminal history. So we turned to the powerful background checker, Truthfinder, that we use all the time, and all we had to do was enter Autumn Bardisa's name and the state that she lives in, and it immediately returned information about her. And I'll tell you what, we were able to confirm through court records that Bardisa has been cited multiple times for driving offenses, including speeding and careless driving. Nothing connected to fraud, though. By the way, Law&Crime, we partner with Truthfinder. We use it to get details on people involved in our stories. But even if you don't work in true crime, it can be an amazing resource to give you some peace of mind. Why? It's one of the largest public record search services in the United States. And with a paid subscription service, you can get access to unlimited reports about almost anyone. So right now, you can get 50% off of your first month of confidential background reports. Just go to truthfinder.com/LC Sidebar. So now to talk about this bizarre case and get insight into potential consequences, I want to bring in Florida trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, great to see you. I've heard of cons before. This one's different.
Well, Jesse, thank you for having me. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. One of the first things that jumps out at me is what the heck was going on in Advent Health? They have a duty to make sure that their healthcare professionals are appropriately credentialed and have license before they set them loose on patients.
What is the legal exposure for Advent Health? Because this is not, catch me if you can. This is a situation where, well, a little bit in the movie, but a little bit, I mean, you're talking about somebody who really didn't have the authority, the license to treat these patients in the way that she presumably did. Do they go back and look at the cases of every one of these people she treated, and if God forbid something happened to them, can Advent Health now be on the hook because of what this person may or may not have done? I mean, yes, and these are just allegations at this point, but just taking it as true, you have to wonder what the ripple effects are.
Well, first, I think you're aging both of us with the catch me if you can. But yes, Advent Health does have exposure. They have an obligation to make sure that like I said before, their professionals are appropriately licensed and credentialed. So you also have the issue there's potentially an issue with billing. I'm assuming that they have billed what's called government entitlements, such as Medicare and Medicaid, and they've gotten paid for these services that were fraudulently billed, in essence, because this particular provider wasn't appropriately licensed. So they have that issue, along with potential if she, and we don't know yet, if she created or caused any physical harm to these patients. But if, let's say that she did, and there's a malpractice lawsuit, then they would potentially be liable civilly for that as well. If Medicare and Medicaid potentially believe that Advent had knowledge of this or should have had knowledge, there potentially could be a cause of action for Medicare and Medicaid fraud, potentially on the criminal level.
By the way, my understanding is she got fired from Advent Health months ago, and in that body cam video, she's wearing scrubs. Like, did she, take the test? Did she get a real license? Did she get a job somewhere else? That's something that would confuse me.
Well, it's definitely something of a concern. Is she still practicing somewhere else? Did she get someone else to hire? What jumped out at me about this story was also that the number that she was using for this other Autumn actually worked for Advent Health as well. So I'm a little confused why, when they put it in their system with that number, that it didn't pop up that the real Autumn was at a different location for the same company.
It's a good point. Okay, so Sheriff Staley explained a little bit more about this investigation and, more specifically, the charges that she now faces.
They fired her. 2 months later, they notified us of the incident, which began a 7-month investigation. And the reason it took 7 months is you have to remember that we are trying to thread the needle on HIPAA laws. And so we have to have victims. We don't know who the victims are. And we also have to work with the hospital to obtain victim names. And so that requires subpoenas and investigation, and that takes a while to complete. Now, with over 4,400 victims, if you will, in this case, we worked with the 7th Circuit Judicial State Attorney's Office, which is R.J. Larissa, to determine you can't really charge 4,400 counts. I guess you could, but it's going to significantally bog down the criminal justice system. So the time that she was employed as what they thought was a fully certified RN was 7 months. So they charged 1 count for each month that she worked at the hospital as allegedly a fully licensed authorized RN. So that's why it's 7 counts. 7 counts of practicing medicine without a license, basically, and 7 counts of identity fraud. You go to a hospital and you trust that the hospital staff is fully licensed, prepared to serve you in whatever your medical need is. And so you have to have faith in the system. And I think in this case, it showed that there was some flaws, at least in follow-up, and a very trustworthy hiring process. When you say, I just got married, that's why my last name is different. And they asked her to provide, but there was no follow-up. So I think there were some mistakes made in the hiring process, but you can deal with Advent Health on that, because we only look at the criminal case and what led up to it, what caused it. To our knowledge, there's no serious injury or death related to this incident. And, you know, she must have done a good job, even though she wasn't licensed, because they were looking at a promotion to charge nurse, which is what triggered the review of her file and ultimately how she got caught.
Honestly, Alexis, that's a good point. I mean, we were talking about what was her treatment like. If she was going to get a promotion, she was probably doing a good job. Look, if that is true, that no one was harmed, that would be the best news. It's wild to say the least. And I am curious, you know, he makes the point, you can't charge, or you could, but it'd be so impractical, over 4,000 counts. Does the way that they're charging her make sense to you? Are 14 total charges enough given the scope of her alleged crimes?
Well, and I handle cases that have to do with healthcare fraud in New York and Florida. And I have to say that it's a little more complicated with them proving this, because it's not simply that she necessarily held herself out because it was a nurse, unlike a doctor scenario. So it really depends on those treatment records. If she was providing, let's say, you know, doing things in those records that reflect that she was acting and doing duties such as an RN. So I think that's when he was getting into proving it, it would boggle it down where we just do 7. I mean, she's facing some serious charges based on the 7 counts. Really, there's mandatory minimums just for using the other person's information that attached just to that, opposed to the practicing, you know, the medicine. But also what jumped out at me is that he was saying something about HIPAA, and in what it is contained in the information that's out there is that Advent Health was dragging their feet turning over that information. There was a subpoena that was issued and they kept on trying to get extensions. So it was them that was on top of everything else, dragging their feet to actually provide law enforcement with how many patients she actually allegedly treated, and the record stating what she actually did in that alleged treatment.
By the way, as far as I understand at the time of this recording, there is no outcry witness, right? No specific person who came forward to say they were a victim, to get, you know, an investigation going. Does that make a difference in how she's charged or how the case moves forward?
Not with the charges that she's been charged with. For instance, the misusing of the information is more or less that you look at, depending on the count, whether it's first degree, second degree, or third degree, whether, you know, how many victims. In this case, there's really only one victim that she stole their personal information, and then how much financial gain that she got. Now, you know, if you look up the average nurse RN in Florida makes about $80,000. She was doing this for 7 months. So, you know, we're under what would be first degree of $50,000, and we're in between, and there's mandatory minimums for that. Now, with the practicing medicine, it's not really necessarily, like he said, you could do 4,000 because there's 4,000 alleged victims. But I think what they did is, once you get, it just gets ridiculous. Doing the 7 was probably a good approach.
Now, Sheriff Staley mentioned that it took quite a while to get all the information they needed because of pushbacks and delays on the part of Advent Health, but he made sure that people knew that the sheriff's office didn't have any of the victims' actual medical records. Take a listen.
So let me make it very clear. We did not receive any medical records. So what the victims in this case, or the patients, were in the hospital for is unknown to us. All we have is their name, because they were a victim of the crime.
Alexis, just to make this a little bit, clarify this point, how complicated is it to bring a case like this to court? You know, a lot to consider: privacy laws, hospital policies related to the release of information, witnesses who may be reluctant to talk because a lot of different issues, fear of retaliation, embarrassment, you trying to make sense of what the impact is that she might have had at this mental health institution. What do you think?
So the counts related to stealing the one individual it seems to be pretty straightforward. The counts related to practicing without a license, once you get in court, they'll be able to get subpoenas. There's also ways, even with HIPAA, to turn over records that you could redact certain things. You could get releases. It's not super complicated once they've now filed charges to get that necessary information. I think once it's tried, a good defense attorney is really going to attack those records to say, listen, she really wasn't acting as an RN. Because remember, she was employed for, I believe, almost 2 years prior, not under or acting as an RN. So, you would really look at those records and say, okay, what's contained in the records that they're saying she actually did wouldn't necessarily qualify for someone acting as an RN. And that would be, a strategy to take as a defense attorney to get this down. Now, the taking of the personal information, I think that's going to be really hard to overcome.
What could her defense be?
The defense I don't see a defense for taking the personal information. I do see, like I had stated before, the defense that even though they had given her for those 7 months that label or title as an RN, that she actually was still not performing RN duties. And that's really going to lie in those medical records.
By the way, talking about that, I want to talk for a moment about the woman whose identity that Bardisa allegedly used to get this RN position. So according to the sheriff, the woman attended the same university at the same time, but they didn't know each other. Take a look.
I would say this is greed or wanting a job so bad that you would manipulate a system and assume somebody's identity to be able to practice. You went to school, but you failed the exam. And instead of, and she told them that she was taking an exam, but that's when she produced the identity. And the other ironic part of this case is, and maybe this is how she found this particular individual, she found somebody with her first name, different last name, but how she was able to find is they actually went to school together. But they did not know each other. Wow. So somehow she found it, same university, same hiring class, if you will, through Advent, but they never met, they never knew each other.
Did you notify the other Autumn?
We did, and I can tell you this has made her life havoc, if you can imagine, with all the licensing that's required by the state of Florida and by nationally to have somebody assume your identity. This is certainly worse than credit card fraud, and so taking somebody's identity to get a credit card or a mortgage. You're dealing with the lives potentially of patients that have been admitted. So it's a very unusual case, probably one of the most unusual cases that I think we have investigated since I've been sheriff and probably in my career.
Oh, and get this, both Autumns worked for Advent Health. The other woman worked at a hospital in a different part of the state. Now, Alexis, one would think that Advent Health Systems would catch that 2 different people were using the same license number. This, at the very least, is a wake-up call to them.
Well, I think it goes beyond. I think, in my opinion, it's complete negligence on their part. That, yes, you're right, she was in their system, the real Autumn was in their system already, so that should have raised red flags. But just the follow-up or the whole process, in my opinion, they were negligent. But yeah, I mean, I honestly disagree with the sheriff, though. I don't know how uncommon. I think because we have the 2 Autumns, because in Miami you hear about people practicing medicine without a license on the regular.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing? Oh, boy. Maybe we got to dedicate another sidebar to that. All right, well, I'll tell you what, when we stick with Bardisa, though, for a second, more of her alleged misconduct was detailed in court documents. So the chief nursing officer for Advent Health was tasked with doing an investigation and uncovered that she'd allegedly given drugs to fellow employees, including the weight loss drug Ozempic. Quote, her statement further mentioned that an unidentified employee came forward stating that they had purchased prescription medication from Autumn Bardisa, which was identified as semaglutide, commonly referred to as Ozempic. The same unidentified employee stated that Autumn Bardisa had previously administered a birth control injection to a second unidentified employee. It had not been identified by Advent Health where the prescriptions were filled. As if the allegations couldn't get worse, Alexis. What do you make about this?
Well, so they...
And by the way, why no drug charges? Why no drug charges either?
Well, that's a good question. But I mean, more important, so at sometime during this, she did have her certified nursing assistant certificate license. I think it expired right before she, the year before. So I'm not sure in time when all that happened. But as a certified nursing assistant, you're not allowed to inject medicine. So the injection is a problem under that license. So that would go towards what we were talking about. Was she doing stuff that was something that an RN could do, opposed to someone that did not have an RN license? So you're not allowed to dispense. She wouldn't be allowed to prescribe medication, and nor would she be allowed to inject anybody with a medication. So that's a problem. And those, even though they're being marked now as unidentified, I'm pretty sure that it's going to come out who those are. It sounds almost what you were saying, Jesse, that this person who came forward was a little unhappy about them maybe getting promoted and the other person not, and went on a deep dive to find out, what was about this person.
That is definitely a possibility. And I'm sure people will have a lot of more questions for Advent Health, right? So multiple media outlets, they reached out to Advent Health about these allegations about what happened here. Hospital responded, "We do not comment on private personnel matters or pending legal matters. All inquiries should be directed to the Flagler County Sheriff's Office." Now, Bardisa was given a $5,000 bond for each charge, so that's $70,000 total. And as of this recording on Friday, August 8th, Flagler County inmate information shows she has not been released. An arraignment is scheduled for September 2nd. This is after the Labor Day holiday weekend, and we will continue to see what happens next. Alexis Rosenberg, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, as always.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.